Ladies, are you ready? On time? Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Morning. Thank you for waking up early. All right, we good? Okay. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me back again this year. I was here last year. Did anybody see me last year? Yes. Oh my gosh. Hi. Okay. So my name is Lynne. That's me. They wanted us to tell fun facts, and so this winter I went to the islands and kissed a stingray. They say it's for good luck and it'll bring you back, and so I'd like to go back to the islands. I'm excited to be here with you today to talk about mid-level donors. And so my friends are going to be translating and interpreting for me. If you have a question at any time, feel free to ask. I'll give you a microphone so that we can hear you. And you can ask in English or in Italian. Please help yourself. My name is Lynne. I work as the donor relations guru. I live in the United States, in Texas, and in New York. And I'm happy to be back this year. This time I came through Milan. Last year I came through Rome. And last year they lost my luggage, and this year they lost my luggage. Two different airlines. So Italy wants me to shop. So I went shopping. Yes. So we're going to talk today a little bit about mid-level donors together. And so I brought a fundraising pyramid this morning. When I got started in fundraising, everybody talked to me about the fundraising pyramid, how there were supposed to be big donors at the top and lots of small donors at the bottom. And I've spent 20 years looking for this pyramid, and I have yet to find it at any organization. Most of our organizations don't have a classic pyramid because we haven't done a good job of taking care of donors along the way. And so today we're going to talk about those that reside at the middle of the pyramid. Now, what's interesting about that is it's going to be different for every single one of your organizations. There's not a single dollar amount that I can say, this is a mid-level donor for you. And so for some of you, it may be a donor who gives €100. For some of you, it may be a donor who gives €500. For some of you, it may be 1,000. But to define it, what a mid-level donor is someone who gives at the high end of your annual fund, but has not yet made a major gift, right? So not yet made that major commitment that we're all looking for from our fundraising population. So part of the problem is we don't have a good path or pipeline to the mid-level. And so a lot of it looks like this. So like Egypt, we have a collapsed pyramid. We have a group of donors at the top, and usually 80 to 90% of our money comes from the group at the top, right? So a small group of very large donors. And we have a big group at the bottom giving regularly, small amounts. But we have not spent any time taking care of the middle of the pyramid, so sometimes it looks like that, or it will look like the Eiffel Tower, or it will look like a witch's hat or a sombrero, right? Different shapes, but it doesn't look like a pyramid because we haven't had a plan for mid-level donors. How many of you have plans for your middle of your pyramid? How many of you have plans? 1, 2... So about 10% of you have a plan. Is it working? The plan's working? Oh, okay. You just started. Fantastic. Okay, so one of the challenges is that most of us don't have a plan for the mid-level. And the other challenge is that we don't have a ton of staff, time, and money, right? So a lot of us are under-resourced. And so that means that the middle is the last one that we take care of. Because we don't have an opportunity to get there. Oftentimes that leaves our middle donor feeling like the middle child in the family, right? Really sad. Yes, that's the middle donor right there. Yes, for those of you who are middle children, you understand how that feels. So this is the new baby, and this is the oldest, and the middle is not having a good day. And what that means for most kids is lots of hand-me-downs or leftovers, right? And so because we don't take care of those donors, they get sad and they go away. They find another charity to give to. So we have to prevent this from happening, right? Because nobody wants to feel that way, especially not early on a Thursday morning. Okay, so how do we do that? We have to think about this in terms of a priority. So Roger Craver, who's a fantastic fundraiser, talks about how important it is to take care of these middle donors and that we have to have a plan. For those of you with a plan, wonderful. We hope we can help you with your plan. For those of you without a plan, now is the day to get one. So we're going to talk through what this looks like. And then we're also going to give you an example of an organization that took me from a one-time donor into a mid-level donor right away. And I'm going to show you samples of how successful that was. Does that sound like a plan? Okay, good. So here's the pot of donors that we're talking about. For many of you, they don't represent a lot of money currently, right? So this group right here, this is your major donors. These are the base of your pyramid. So it's a small stripe in the middle. The first thing we have to realize, though, is what are those donors? Who are they and what do they look like? So I'm going to ask you, the crowd, to give me some help. What do you think a mid-level donor is like? Describe them in age, describe what they do. Who are these people? They're wealthy? We hope they're wealthy, right? Yes. Everybody could be a mid-level donor, right? But what do they mostly look like? Give me an age range. 45 plus, think 35 plus. Yeah, we're younger than you think, right? So 35 to 50 is a sweet spot for these folks. What else? Are they employed? Yes. Yes, of course, because otherwise they're just naturally wealthy, right? Usually they have a spouse or a partner, and both of them have jobs. So both spouses are working. Most of them are college educated, so they have a degree. A lot of them have children, right? So lots going on in their lives between soccer and school and camp and other things. They have a lot going on. Have they hit the peak of their career yet? No, they're on their way up. So they have not yet hit maximum earning potential. What that means for us in the fundraising world is we need to get in their hearts and in their minds early on before they hit maximum earning potential, because by that time they make their decisions, and if you're not their charity of choice, you're gone. Most of them are giving to between 5 and 9 organizations a year. So they give to lots of different organizations, trying to find one that's their home. Matter of fact, if you look around the room, most of you are mid-level donors. What is the sad part about a mid-level donor is nobody has taken the time to personally build a relationship with them. They've probably found the nonprofit on their own or through a friend. That's how most people find their nonprofits to give to. But most of them have not had a personal one-on-one meeting with a fundraiser yet. And that's really something that they want in order to give at a higher level. They're looking for personal contact. A mailer, an email, social media is not going to make them give more, right? They're looking for human contact. So when we think about this opportunity, we as nonprofits, we sometimes don't do really well with this group because we keep doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. We're like a hamster on a wheel, right? But with this group, the same thing won't apply. What we have to realize is that these mid-level donors are already all around us. They're already involved in their community. They're already giving, right? So they're current in your donor population. But we are too busy trying to get the next gift or the big gift from the wealthy donor that we overlook this population altogether. And if you have someone who's giving, say, $500 or $1,000 a year, understand that that's nowhere near their capacity. They just have not been engaged in the right way so that they can give more. So we have a lot of potential with these donors if we just tap into their progress and we get to find out what they care about. What that requires of us is to not do the same thing. Not do the same thing that we've been doing with all the other donors and think that they'll change. So this is a pipeline. And a lot of the times fundraisers talk about building the donor pipeline, right? Describe the pipeline for me in the photo. Long. Very good. What else? There's no wrong answer. Flat, same size, all the way across. What else? It's going down. Yeah, well, I should have cropped the photo. What else? It's closed. Excellent. There's no way in and there's no way out. Right? No way out might be good for us, but no way in, right? But part of the problem is we even describe fundraising in a difficult manner. We want a donor in the pipeline. So they go in and they shoot straight through. But that would mean that their giving would stay the same the entire time, right? That's not going to help us very much. So instead of a pipeline, I want you to think about it in terms of a funnel. Start with a big group of donors and narrowly move them forward, but also give them opportunities to come and go. Give them opportunities to have good experiences with you, and give them opportunities to grow their giving. The pipeline doesn't allow us to do this. It says you go from here to here, and it's already predetermined. So we want to change this. So in the US, there's this great baseball movie. We're into baseball, not soccer, sorry. And it's called The Field of Dreams. And it's got Kevin Costner in it back when he was like young and dreamy. Yes. And how many of you have seen this movie? Yes. Oh, okay. Good. Italian translations. Awesome. Okay. So the myth here is that if you build it, they'll come. So he clears out a cornfield in the middle of nowhere, and he builds a baseball field, and then all these famous players come back and play on his baseball field. It's kind of like he's taken too much, but they come anyway. This is the problem with nonprofit fundraising. We think that by having a nonprofit and by having a cause that's good, people will give to us. So, oh, let's save the dolphins, or let's feed the hungry, or let's shelter the homeless, or let's cure cancer. All those are wonderful things, but donors aren't looking around going, I wish I had somewhere to give my money. If only somebody started a nonprofit, I would give more to it. So your mere existence is not the reason that donors give more, right? So you can't just say, we do good work, and because of this good work, you need to give us money. That does not attract a mid-level donor. A mid-level donor is worried about outcome. They constantly want to be told what is the impact of their gift and why should they give more. So let's take this for example. Every year you might feed the hungry. Every year there are going to be people who are hungry. So you're always going to have need, right? That does not a reason for a person to give. Just because you have need does not mean that a person gives you money. And just because you have more need the next year doesn't mean they should give you more. You have to show them why their giving makes a difference and why you need more next year than ever. Right? So people give because they want to make a change or see a difference in the world. The problem is that we think, well, if you just give, it will solve things, and if you solve things, everything will be fine. But that's not the truth. The need will still exist. So why now? Why more? You have to make the case to them. And one of the best ways to do that is through person-to-person contact. Mid-level donors tell us all the time that's not something that's going to be solved with an advertisement via direct mail, via an email. You have to show them, right? And you have to make them a part of the solution. So your organization is not the solution. The donor has to be the solution. And that's the difference between what we've always been doing, which is give us money, we solve it, to become involved and we together will do this, right? It's a shift from we, the organization, are wonderful, to you, the donor, you're wonderful, right? And without you, we can't do this. We send a lot of mixed signals in fundraising. Some of you will understand that these two don't go together, right? So one is an advertisement for childhood obesity, and the next one is an advertisement for McDonald's, right? So last week, earlier this week, I was at the Duomo, and they have a McDonald's next to the Duomo, and I was like, that's very weird to me because you're in Italy, so I don't know that you need fries. But we send mixed signals, and the mixed signal that we send in nonprofit land is that everything's okay. Sometimes our communications, we say, maybe in a newsletter or through our events, we say, look at all the wonderful work we did. Here's all that we've accomplished as a nonprofit. And what that mixed signal is to the donor is that you don't need my help anymore. You have plenty of money. It's why in the United States we've stopped listing donors. We don't do donor lists anymore because to a donor they say, well, you have plenty of money. Look at all these people that give to you. I don't need to give to you anymore, right? So we have to think about how to not trip ourselves up and not make simple mistakes with these donors because they're very precious to us. And one of the things we have to realize is that if we want to grow them to have them be the next major gift donor, we have to give them a reason to increase their giving. Part of that is through the way we ask, and the other part is through how and what we say. This is what donors want from us. Really simple. You can survey donor after donor. You can ask them what they want, and it boils down to these three things: access, information, and experience. So who do donors want access to the most? We often put the wrong people in front of our donors. Who do we think they want access to? Program staff, okay. Aha, the people who benefit from the work. Absolutely. So it's not program staff. It's not your CEO. It's not your executive director. Think anyone on the payroll, no good. Right? Because we'll be on the payroll of another organization 16 months from now. I saw a big job board out there, right? Right. It's the people that benefit from the work. So I work a lot in the university world. They want to meet students. That's exactly who they want to meet. They want to meet the families you care for. They want to meet the beneficiary of that. Now, you can give them access at an arm's length if you need to. You can tell them from the families of the people you support. You could do it through video. You could do it through testimonial. But if I'm a donor and I want to give at a significant level, I want access to the people that benefit from my support. So who ends up getting the money? So that's the number one thing. Number two is information. And I will say this, they don't want information that they can already get off of your website. That's passive information. They don't want passive information. That's what your website is for. It's lovely. You just redesigned it. It looks great. Or you need to redesign it. You need help, right? But they want information about how their gift is used. What did my money do? What was the impact it had on your organization? And how am I special as a donor because I supported your organization? Not how we, not how you, the organization, did, but what did I do, the donor? So they don't need your mission statement. They can go get that. They don't need facts about you, or they don't need to know who's on your board. They need to know what their money did and what the difference was before and after. So before I gave you money, after I gave you money, here's the impact. And then finally, experiences. So at a certain point of wealth, people can buy anything they want. It's a consumerist world, right? So hold on to your items with your logo on them. Nobody wants we call them tchotchkes or takeaway items, although there's these lovely red tote bags, lovely, right? But nobody wants an item with your logo on it. As a matter of fact, there's a Yale study from Yale University that says that any time you give a donor an item with your logo on it to thank them for their gift, their next gift goes down 48%. Why? Because they think you're wasting their money on items you ordered out of a catalog, right? So keep that. Instead, what money cannot buy is an experience. Mid-level donors desire greatly to get involved through volunteerism. We know that when people volunteer, their giving goes up, and their level of involvement also goes up. What are experiences they can have with your organization? And don't think it has to be a perfect tour through a perfect time on a perfect day. Get their hands dirty, right? Make sure they understand where there's real need. So I'll give you an example. I work with a nonprofit animal shelter in the United States, and they had all their consultants come in for a day and spend a day working in the shelter. And we did things like clean out the cages for the animals. We fed the animals, which some of them needed wet food, so that was smelly and weird. We had to walk the dogs. We had to do laundry. I did like 6 loads of laundry, which is more than I do in my normal life. We did all kinds of things. We sorted toys for the animals. And by doing that, one of the things that I learned as a volunteer was they had plenty of blankets. They had no wet food for the dogs. They were buying it out of their staff's pockets. And that the best toy for a cat, because I don't have any cats, is a ping pong ball. Who knew? Cats are simple to please, right? Because they like to knock things over, right? There's tons of cat videos knocking things over. So when I left that day as a volunteer, I thought, I wonder if there's a way I can help. So I went on Amazon, because that's how you get everything in the States, Amazon. And I bought cases of wet dog food and cases of ping pong balls and had them delivered to the shelter. And now every 6 weeks they get a new shipment in of my ping pong balls and my wet dog food, because I was able to see what they needed by spending a day there. So are you having your volunteers do real work? Because if I had not sorted the toys or scooped out the wet dog food, I would not have known what they needed and not been able to see it. So don't show them tour-ready, perfect nonprofit. Show them what you actually need and what their donations will go for. Engage them in an experience. If you can do that with someone who benefits from the money, even better, right? I got to engage with the dog and the cat. They benefited from my support, even better, right? And they were cute animals, so winning, right? But those are the things that donors want. And we get that wrong. We think they want plaques or certificates or medals or listing. That's not what they want. They don't need another communication. They don't need another, they want this. And we have to provide that. That's what moves them forward in a relationship. Here's the opportunity that we have. So if you think about what population do I need to target, these are the 2 populations for you to target. So someone who's made a one-time gift, how do I get them to increase their giving? And then someone who's giving at a high level, how do I turn them into a major gift donor? And the way that you do that is through commitment over time. This is not something that's going to happen in 6 months. This is not something that's going to happen in a year and a half of work. This is going to take time for you to move them, but first you have to recognize who are your populations. One of the biggest populations to move at this annual giving level is someone who doubles their gift. So say they were giving 25 and they made their gift the next year of 50. That's someone that automatically you know, there's someone who's demonstrating a level of interest. I need to take advantage of that and talk to them personally. So one of the programs that we put in place for our mid-level donors is anybody who doubles their gift gets a phone call within 48 hours. And it can be from a volunteer. It can be from program staff. If you have the fundraisers, it can be from a fundraiser. But we need to recognize that they've done good behavior, doubled their gift. And then we need to ask them, thank you. Is there something we can do for you? Would you like to come in and tour our facility? I'd love to meet with you to say thank you. And that's at any amount. right? It could be simple as going from a $20 donor to a $40 donor, or from 100 to 250. But what they're saying to you is, I want to become deeply engaged. Now, what's interesting about donors who double their gift is the studies show that they will do it twice. They will do it twice. They will double their gift twice. And then on the third time, guess what happens if you don't notice? They go away. They leave. They literally do not retain at your nonprofit because they've told you twice, I'm interested. Hello. And you have said, and you do the same thing. And so after 2 times, they say, nothing I can do, so they go on and move on to another charity. Because they have choice. If Italy's anything like the United States, in the U.S., we have 2 million nonprofits. And we only have a finite pot of money. And so they can go on and choose another nonprofit that does something similar or something else, because they just won't put up with someone not noticing that they want to be invested. So they'll double their gift, but are you noticing? So one of the plans you can put in place is, let's call them. Let's send them a handwritten note, right? Let's do something saying, wow, this is a great level of commitment. And then in order to get a mid-level donor to transition to a major gift donor, you have to get them to commit. Commit over time. Ask them for an increased gift for 3 years. Ask them to think about the future and know that you're going to report back their impact in that future. So instead of having someone who gives $1,000 a year, ask them to give $100 or $150 a month for 3 years. So that automatically increases their gift. It makes them committed to you for that 3-year span, so you have that good 3 years to treat them well and to love them and to tell them about their giving. And it gets them in the mindset of giving over long periods of time, which is what it takes for a major gift donor. Major gift donors usually sign up for 5 to 7 years, right? So we have to think about that. We have to think about that transition, how to get people there. Okay, so how to get a fish to jump into a bigger pond, right? You have to have a plan. So I know this is soccer country, but I'm Southern. In America, football, not football. Football, right? This is a football play. It's one play, just 8 different ways, because apparently there's 8 different ways you can run the ball. And so one of the things you have to do as an organization is have a plan for mid-level donors. So for those of you that have a plan, great job. Now we need to figure out, what is the plan for the rest of you who don't have that? Now, how many of you have tons of staff and tons of money and a perfect computer system and email addresses for everyone? Oh yes, you all have that. I love fundraising in Italy. So much easier. I'll just take a nap and eat pasta. Okay. The first thing you have to do is understand who your mid-level donors are. So you need to figure out what that population looks like. Understand that in the US, 76% of giving is done by women. And that has really changed in the last 20 to 30 years. In 20, 30 years ago, male, 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 all men. Now, women are the force in giving. So one of the things that we want to see as women is a good story. So we need to work on storytelling. And we want to see people like us. So we want the world to be inclusive. And we want you to tell a story that I can get involved in. So for example, providing access to students to college is one that's really big for us. And providing that first person story of one person. Don't try to tell 5 or 10 different stories. Tell one good story, and that will stick with people. Find an image, find a person that they can resonate with, right? So first you have to have a plan. Now, you should not be sending the same solicitation to a mid-level donor that you send to a $25 donor. It doesn't work. Think of, in the United States, we call them little grannies who send small checks, right? Cat ladies, I don't know, right? You're not trying to attract that donor. So get rid of what you used to do and think about, part of my plan is that my communications have to change. The story has to be different. The cause can be the same, but the story has to be different, and the method of delivery has to be different. how I actually map out who those donors are has to be different. When I work with Duke University, you would think, oh, Duke, very fancy private university. You would think they don't have any problems. They don't need fundraising. Well, one of the areas that they needed support from was minority women. So we were trying to think about how to get to certain affinity groups and populations, right? So we put together an entire fundraising campaign around minority women and harnessing the potential of women and how that worked in the community, and that we still had a long way to go toward equality, right? So what we needed in order to move that was other donors like this, to inspire students like this. So we showed donors, here's what your money can fund, and here's the impact you'll have as a group, right? So really thinking together about doing this in conjunction together. Not we, the university, are doing things and you can give to it, but together we do this better. An example is here. So this is Duke Cancer. So this is part of their medical system, and they're innately focused on cancer, curing cancer, treating people with cancer. And you would think, this is a place of laboratories and research and fancy doctors, and it is. But if our website does that, no one can relate to it. Instead, we take something very cerebral and very high level and bring it down to a simple family and say, you join us, help us, right? That we need your help, that we're not so far advanced that we don't need the help of a donor at the mid-level, right? So even your communications have to be inclusive of the donor from the start. And that's where sometimes we miss it. We say, we're going to end world hunger. We're going to stop child abuse. We're going to stop. You're not going to do it without the donor, right? So the donor needs to feel a part of this, and you can't go so lofty that the donor doesn't feel that they're a part of this, right? So join us. And one of the key words there is volunteer. How to get them involved in mind and body, right? Not just for their money. I get it. Fundraising is about money, but it's really about relationships. Everything we do is about relationships. And so in order to build a relationship, you have to spend time with someone, right? Doesn't just happen overnight. The other thing you have to do is show them what their money does. So I'm going to give you some examples here of impact reporting, right? So that you can show donors that not only are we counting on each of their donations, but that together their donations make a great difference, right? So if we just show a donor, your 100 is a good donation, that's great. But with 15 of those, here's what we can do, right? So really showing the donor collectively, if we get a lot of donors like you, here's the power it can have. And you need to be able to show them tangibly, real world, what the money does, right? So what does it fund? Does it fund 50 bags of rice? Does it fund a new home for someone? Give them tangible outcomes of what the money does. You have to actually demonstrate your money does this. So for example, on this one, 15 gifts of $100 funds books and supplies for a student. That's what 15 gifts of $100 do. Now the other way you could translate that for a donor is that if you give $100 a month, that can do that throughout the year, right? So thinking about different ways they can give, but you have to show the impact of their gift. This is from Dartmouth College in the US, and they have really taken an approach that I think is quite innovative. And when you make your first gift as a parent, this is for parents of their students, they're telling you how they want your relationship to develop when it comes to your philanthropic giving. In other words, they're telling you that one gift is great, but that we have a whole plan for you to get involved with us over the lifetime of your family. So instead of saying, please give us one gift, any amount, I'm sure all of you have heard that, right? One gift, any amount. That's not good enough. They're saying, we want you to build a relationship with us that includes your friends. We want you to give the ultimate gift, which is a planned gift, right? And that you can deepen your relationship over time. Now, some of you might think, why so forward? Well, we're American, so we just say it, right? But also because parents of college students, they only have 4 years to connect with them. Sometimes 5, depending on, how college goes. But they only have 4 years, so they have to build an entire relationship with a family in only 4 years and try to get that ultimate gift outcome. So they're putting out, here's our intentions for you. We don't want you just to give one gift. We want you to build a relationship with us over time. So one of the questions is there anywhere in any of your communications where I can see my relationship grow with your charity, with your nonprofit? Or does it always ask me, just one gift, just one time? My question is, do you have a plan to deepen our relationship? Because here is someone saying to a wise donor, we have a plan for you. And here's what you can expect. Now remember who our mid-level donors are. They're college educated, middle of their career, parents. They're used to having a plan. And you give them one glimpse of hope that says, give us 100. That's not good enough. They need to know that you're thinking far beyond the one gift, right? Think about the level of donor here. This is not grandma with the kittens. This is mid-career professionals. This is you guys. Okay. But times, they are hard. Yes, love an angry cat. A lot of times we mess it up in our organizations. We say, well, this donor needs to give here, or that's my donor, or I need to build a relationship so that I can hurry up and get to the next gift. And that ends up breaking down with mid-level donors. They don't want to hear about your internal structure. They don't want to hear about your challenges, because frankly, they don't care. You guys are laughing because it's not a U.S. thing. It's an all-over-the-world fundraising thing. We don't care about your structure. We don't care about what challenges you've had, or that you can't afford another meeting, or you can't afford another coffee. They don't care. So one of the things we have to do is we have to bless and release all of our issues in order to get to these mid-level donors. We have to actually have a plan and focus on it. We can't say, well, I was going to this year, but then something happened, right? We really have to think beyond this. Here's an organization that's doing a really good job, Amnesty International. One of the things that you have to think about is, and they do a really good job of this, is how the donor gives. Now, in the U.S., it's a little bit different than in Italy. I know a lot of your donors give through bank draft, right? I learned that last year. Thanks, guys. But how a donor gives their gift is really important and says a lot about your communications back to them. So the donor who mails you a check is very different than the donor who gives on their phone, is very different than the donor who comes to your website and gives. And your communications need to reflect that. So one of the challenges is, if I go online and make a gift, and then you mail me tons of things, what does that say about you? It means that you didn't understand who I was, right? I gave you a specific behavior, and you ignored it. Same thing if I mail a check, and you send me tons of emails and videos and texts, you didn't understand who I was. And with mid-level donors, they live in a world where everyone knows who they are. Everybody knows how they like their coffee, what shoes they like to wear, what plane they want to sit on. You know, they know all of your preferences. All of the businesses know your preferences, right? And they communicate to you in those preferences. But in nonprofits, we say you're going to get a spring mailing and an end-of-year mailing, and you're going to get, it's on our calendar and we have to get it done, right? That's wrong. Instead, we have to look at, how did you give your gift? Where did you support? And that has to be our guiding factor. In other words, what we have to think about is mid-level donors as if we had individual one-on-one relationships with them, which is difficult because, again, you all have plenty of time, plenty of staff, and the perfect database, right? Right. No. So what we have to do, though, is look at preferences, and preferences can guide the way. And one of the biggest preferences for donors is how they made their gift. How did they come to you? Who drew them there? And how you communicate with them back. Bless you. Don't look beyond your own organization. What about your staff, your employees? What kind of impact does their giving have? So this is an example of a university in Alabama. It's in the middle of nowhere. And their staff, right? This is the giving from their staff, and they show the impact that not only do you give at work, but you also give us money, and here's what your giving does. Because staff giving is really important to us, and those are great mid-level donors. They're also great plan giving donors, right? Because they stay with your organization a long time. They care deeply about your organization, but they should also be giving back, right? So don't overlook this group when you report back impact. It's very important, especially for grantors, to see that your staff gives. Here's a great example of an impact postcard. It's a really simple one. You can totally take this idea. But what I wanted to show you on this is that they show the donor real things, like here's how much textbooks cost. Here's how much a chair costs. But they also show you things that money can't buy, and that's human beings. It's okay for you to say that your program staff is priceless. It's okay for you to say your instructors are priceless, right? So this is a professor with 23 years of experience. What does mentoring for an hour equate to? It's okay not to say that. But it's also okay to say, and if you want to fund these tangible things, that's good too. So you have to give people an example of what their money does, both the tangible and the intangible, right? Because without the chair, it's hard to listen to a professor. You all have chairs, right? Without a book, it's hard to learn. But that the professor is the real learning moment, right? But this is the kind of work you need to do. Break down your program and show them, here's where your money goes, right? This is what happens when you give us a gift. The other thing you need to do is, again, involve them in volunteering and share their volunteering opportunities. So at the Y, I do a lot of work with the YMCA, and we have volunteer celebrations for mid-level donors. Because that volunteer work has a tangible value, and we want to celebrate that within them. Make sure that when someone comes to you to volunteer, that you have great opportunities for them to volunteer. One of the saddest things is when a donor comes to you and says, I'd like to volunteer, and you all look around the office like, and then you give them something silly like folding letters or filing, right? Something that's not very meaningful and doesn't tie them to the work. Make sure you have a list of 3 or 4 quick things that a volunteer could do easily. One of my favorite ones is they can write thank yous to other donors. Make thank you phone calls. Simple things, right? But don't give them work that's volunteer work that you just didn't want to do because it's Monday. Nobody wants to volunteer and do that again. They want to have meaningful work that gets to the cause, but you also need to celebrate them when they volunteer. Okay. Understand that money is not the most precious thing that donors give us. It's their time. So every time you ask for a donor's time, make sure you use it well. Not that you're wasting it on something that's not as exactly meaningful. So I want to show you an example of planning out your timeline. This is literally from one of my clients. And what we do is we dig into the data. You need data. Data's your friend. And we figure out from the time they make their first gift all the way through to when they make their major gift, how long that takes. And there's a couple of reasons why we do this. Number one, it's to calm the board down. Because the board and people who aren't fundraisers think that today you give me 100 and tomorrow you give me 25,000. No, I have to work. It's a job, right? And it takes time to build that relationship. The other thing, so I can give them a a general timeline of when I think my gifts are going to come to fruition, which helps in buying me time and resources. The other thing is, when I bring staff on board, I want them to understand that they should not get frustrated early on. This is from a university. Your organization may take less time than this, but in a university, on average, it takes 10 to 15 years to get to a big gift. That's multiple visits over those years, right? That's multiple interactions. That's constantly asking people to increase their gift. But it takes time. So one of the things you should think about doing is mapping out, here's my first gift, and here's the road to a major gift, right? It does not happen overnight. And what one of the challenges is that if we focus in here and we say, I've got to get a major gift in 3 to 5 years sometimes, you end up burning the donor out because you're constantly asking them for money, and the only time you talk to them is when you want something. And a donor says, that's not a healthy relationship, I'll go elsewhere. And then the cycle starts all over for you. So one of the things you want to figure out is, where are you losing your donors? Where are they increasing? So right here, this part is really crucial. From the 1,000 on up, we want to constantly ask them to renew their support at a higher level, not just renew. And that's one of the traps that we fall in. Once somebody gives 1,000, we say, oh, renew your support. No, you have to constantly upgrade them, but you don't want to do it in such an aggressive manner that they go away. But if you don't have this chart, you can build this chart. I'm happy to help you do this. We can do it via email or Skype, but it shows the path along which you have to follow. Now we do this based on average data, right? So one of the other interesting things, and I'll give you an insight into big gifts in America, I look at, I've been doing a study of donors who give $1 million or more. So like, 500 euro basically. And $1 million or more. 90% of those donors started with a gift of less than $250. So if you think that your big donor is just going to jump in with a $50,000 gift and then jump to $1 million, it doesn't happen. It takes time and relationships, right? So I just want to give you hope that even with the big donors, they don't all jump in at $1 million or 500,000 or 50,000. That's not how it works. It takes time. So this is a good homework takeaway for you at your organization. Go back, have a meeting, dig into your data and say, what does this look like, right? You need to have a plan. Here's an example of a simple plan that you can put together that says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a mid-level donor and we're going to talk to them, bless you, through multiple different touches over different channels over time. We're going to evaluate whether their giving has grown or not. And we're going to move on from there. Understand that it's very important for you to learn, A, how the donor made their gift. That is the most important piece of information you have. More important than how much they gave. How did they make their gift? What do they care about? Not what do you care about. Not what do you want to fund. But how? Who are these people? And what is the path you want to take them on? Understand that these mid-level donors are looking for a personal touch. So a handwritten note, a personal phone call, right? If they gave on their phone, a text message, a personal email. Do not cut and paste the same email over and over and over again. Do not send everyone the same letter. It won't work. You have to go personal with these folks and then say to them, what's your preferred method of communication? That's one of the questions that nobody asks, but is so important. How do you want us to treat you? Okay, so I hear from my interpreters that we're not the only ones. Everybody has Netflix. Everybody subscribes to something monthly, right? And that even in Italy, it's the same way. So I was on Netflix last night in my room. Good Italian movies, thank you. Very different content over here. And the whole idea here is that if you really want a mid-level donor to transition, The secret, I'm going to give you a secret, is to get them to sign up for a monthly gift. If you are not asking for a monthly gift, you're losing it right away. Monthly donors retain at a 90% rate. They also give more. So the average monthly gift can be 30 to 60. The average one-time gift is only 80. So think about the exponential. And that gives you an opportunity to build a relationship with a donor, because they're giving every month and you can communicate with them and you give them an opportunity. Also, people will give more monthly because they don't think about it. Everybody pays their bills monthly, right? If you ask someone for $25 a month, that may be like their coffee for a week. Here, yeah, definitely, right? In U.S., it's Starbucks for like a week. Yeah, yeah. I asked a friend. I don't drink coffee. Please don't hurt me. My friend spends $250 a month on Starbucks. $250 US a month on Starbucks, because it's like $7 a day, basically. It's ridiculous. Yes, you guys are like, wow. Yes, crazy Americans. But if I ask her to give me $1,000, she'll tell me, no, I don't have any money. It's true. But if I say to her, could you give me $80 a month, one nice dinner out for a cause, she would do it. Because I just took $1,000 and made it $80 a month, which is $85 is $1,000 a year. And I made it relatable to her, right? Especially when I point out that she spent $250 on coffee that month. What you can't do is do that without understanding where the money's going to go. So I have an example. This is from Charity Water. I love Charity Water. I think they're an amazing organization. And they say they have a whole pipeline program for those of us who give monthly. $35 a month funds piping, 122 feet. $50 a month, a test for water in Malawi. $100 a month, spare parts to fix a well. So they show you as a donor what your money can do. The good news is that 100 doesn't have to go to that, right? But you're showing people tangibly what they can do. So one of the things, remember last year, we spent time on your websites. I'm hoping a bunch of them are better. And is monthly giving your default? It needs to be your default option. It is now. I see a lot of you are like, yay, right? I still give my monthly gifts from last year, don't worry, right? But is monthly giving your default? Because if you want to take a one-time donor of $200 or $500, the best way to get them is ask them for $50 a month, $100 a month, and on up. That is how you transition a mid-level donor. It is the #1 way to do that. But then, and here's what hasn't happened. So I was here the exact same day last year. Not one of the organizations that I gave to monthly has asked me to increase my monthly gift. That's right. I've been giving that $25 a month or €25 a month now for a year, and no one has said, would you like to give 30? Would you like to give 35? So while we know that monthly giving is low maintenance, we also have to remember that we'd like them to increase their impact. So don't just set it and forget them. You have to re-engage with them. You also have to have shown them what you did with their money that year, right? So make sure you're not leaving them behind and just asking for the same amount. Monthly is the way to do it. Okay, so we're all hot. It's a little hot in here, and we're all a little sleepy still because your coffee hasn't kicked in. So I'm going to show you a real-world example of something that happened to me this year. And feel free to take photos of this. I've already talked to the organization. They say you can steal everything that they have. And so I want to tell you kind of a story of what happened to me and how I got upgraded pretty quickly through excellent communications and an excellent plan. So in August of this past year, a hurricane came and hit Texas where I had a new home. And it was really bad, and it flooded parts of Houston, which is a city a couple hours away from me. And as usual, I didn't know what to do to help because I was trapped in my apartment and basically was like, I don't know what to do because I don't own a boat and I can't help anybody. So I went on Facebook and I said to my friends, what should I do to help? And of course, they said, you should give money. And I said, of course, because all my friends are fundraisers, basically. Yeah, except for my mom, and she's a fund giver. So all my friends are fundraisers, so they said, you should give money. And I said, where? And so they gave me, everybody nominated their organization. And I was like, you don't have anything to do with the hurricane, but okay. So I gave to 4 organizations. And one of the organizations I gave to is a small national nonprofit called Team Rubicon. And Rubicon is a small group of people that go into a disaster and help it during disaster times. And so I gave 4 gifts of $100 each, right? Just one-time gift. What do you do during a disaster? I was sitting on my couch watching Netflix, and I made the gifts. And Team Rubicon is a nonprofit that sends people into disaster areas, but they have a special mission. The people that they send into the disaster areas are former U.S. military. So all volunteers, they have over 50,000 volunteers in the States, and they all have to be former military. And as you know, in the United States, sometimes our military come home from war and they're never the same. They lose their sense of purpose, they have trouble, they have trauma remembering it. And so this organization puts them in little teams and sends them right into the difficult times, but they're all really well trained because the military has trained them on how to respond during disaster. So I gave $100. The next day, I received this text message on the left. This is my phone, literally the screenshot from my phone. Look, I had some battery. Right here, I was doing well, right? I got this text message. And I said, wow. Now, here's some interesting things about the text message. Number 1, it included a photo. Number 2, who is responsible for this? Who's responsible for the change? Me. I'm the most important person. That's what I'd like to think in my life, right? I'm the most important person. I was like, wow, this is really nice. 2 days later, the storm was over and gone. And I thought, okay, things will get better. 2 days later, they sent me this text on the right. And it said that day, 2 days after the storm was there, they rescued 42 people from floods, people that were going to drown. And this link that they sent me to a map. They called it a situation report, which apparently is very common in the military. They call them sit reps. And it had a map, and it had 42 dots on it of the people that they had saved. Now, I don't care if that map was real or not, or if they had just thrown dots at a map. It didn't matter. But I thought, wow, my $100 is really doing something here, right? Now, this is 48 hours after I made my gift. This is good stuff, right? So I thought, very nice. So that was the first 2 touches I received. I also received an email receipt, for my online gift. Very simple. So then I received this email. And it told me the story of Lissy. This is Lissy with her cute t-shirt. I need a t-shirt like that so I can write my name on it in case I get lost or drunk, right? I'll know exactly who I am at all times. Your wine is really cheap here. That was €2 last night. Sorry. So they tell me about Lissy, and they tell me about her volunteer experience, and she's in former Air Force, and how the volunteering has changed her life. Notice there's no more money, there's nothing, just a story about Lissy. I was impressed. I was like, okay. Good job, Team Rubicon. Then they sent me this, and my mind exploded. I fell onto the floor and cried. I did. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I got this. Because every time I fly or stay at a hotel or drive a rental car, they ask me, how did it go? Or if I shop at a store, they say, how did it go? If I eat at a restaurant, fill out a survey. No nonprofit ever asks me how it's going. Nobody. But they said, how often would you like to hear from us? How would you like to hear from us? Email, mail, text. And what would you like to see? And I was like, there's no way this is real. I give to hundreds of nonprofits. Nobody's ever treated me well. Seriously. It's tragic. I know. Right. But think about this. 3 questions. 3 questions. Now, some of you are already doing the math. How am I going to store this in my database? Will we ever be able to do this? This will never happen. You know I'm only one fundraiser. I can't conquer the world. My board will never go for this. Blah, 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 blah. Allora. I learned one Italian word. Okay. Right. Vino, the other Italian word. Right. Okay. It doesn't matter. The idea here is that this is a stewardship touch because you're asking. Now, they've followed through on this sense, and I'm going to show you other things. But imagine saying to your donors, how you want to hear from us is very important. Very important. So then, it gets better. Then they send me John. I'm not going to play you John's video because you all will cry and you will sob. I will send it to you if you send me an email. But, I mean, you will cry and you will want to be held and you will drink vino. It is really bad because John talks about how he was a veteran and he came back and he got out of the military and he lost his way. And he ended up homeless and he ended up not really caring for himself and not feeling too good about himself. And his friend said, you should volunteer for Team Rubicon. And so he thought, I've got nothing else. So he went and volunteered. And it changed his life. And he talks about in there, it talks about how the one thing that mirrors the military is because he has an innate sense of purpose and that the people that he's helping are so worse off than he is, that he turned his life. So now he works for them. And he has a job there as a program manager. Now, what's interesting about this video is not only did it make me cry, there's this cute little sentence right here. I hope you'll join the support squad to help engage more folks like me. First of all, squad goals. That's what we say on Instagram, squad goals, right? So I wanted to join his support squad. And he says, $11 a month isn't always easy. So what has he asked me for? Monthly gift, right? I said, $11? I can do better than that, John. So I clicked the link. And I gave him 25 because I'm broke. Just anyway, too much wine. Anyway, I gave $25 a month. So remember, when I gave my first gift, how much did I give? 100. Now I'm giving $25 a month. They just upgraded me, right? Notice what they didn't do before any of that. There's no asking. No asking. All thanking. All telling me what my money did. Right? Now, this all happened within 3 weeks. Yes. Now, normally, I'm not fast. I'm easy. I'm not fast. Right? That's a bad joke. Okay. So, I'm not fast. I don't like this. So, I called Team Rubicon. And I said, you guys are amazing. First of all, good job. Second of all, what's going on here? And the answer was, our work is so urgent that we have to fly in, and we're there with the first responders. And when a natural disaster hits, we need to be there right away. So we want our supporters to feel the sense of urgency from our communications. How good is that? Right? So then I asked him a bunch of other questions. I said, how many staff do you have working at Rubicon? You would think 800. 8. So no excuses. No excuses. I know that's 7 more than you have, but that's okay. 8. And I said, the other thing that I have a question about, other than how do I get Lissy's t-shirt, right, is why did you send me text messages? Because I am the type of person that you should not text message or call unless you have been given permission. I find it intrusive, right? That's what WhatsApp is for, right? So I said, why did you send me a text message? And he said, you gave your gift on your cell phone. I said, how did you know that? And he said, well, we were watching you in your apartment. Just kidding. Just kidding. He said, from our Google Analytics, we knew that you had made your gift on an iOS. And we store that in the database, so our first contact is always in the way you gave. And I went, can you come teach a class in Italy in May? because you're really freaking smart, right? Sorry, don't translate that. And he said, yeah, we knew how you gave, so we communicated that way. And I said, allora. Right? So, now, the ultimate, and I forgot, I left this in my room. Then they sent me this. Allora. I have the t-shirt in Italy with me. It's in my room. And they sent me this, and they said, we want you to write your name on your shirt so that when you get drunk or lost, you'll know who you are. And normally, again, I'm not a fan of giving things away to donors. I don't believe in it. But as you can see, everybody in all the photos has one on, and you become part of the team. So I ordered my t-shirt, and now when I fly 300 times a year. I wear that shirt every time I fly when it's clean. I won't wear it when it's dirty. I wear it all over. And people say to me, what is that? And I talk about Team Rubicon. So not only have they taken me from a one-time donor to a monthly donor, I now wear their clothing. Right? Now, I'm not saying you need to get the fundraising t-shirt that's here, though. I have to buy some and take them back to the States because I put a photo on Instagram yesterday, and everybody's like, how do I get that t-shirt? I'm like, I will not bring back wine. I will bring back t-shirts. No, I'll bring back wine and t-shirts in my suitcase. But this is what they've transitioned me into. Someone who advocates for them. Someone who says, I'm a support squad member. And all that within less than a month and a half. This came about a month and a half after. So after 2 payments, I got this. Right? Good job, right? What's your plan? What's your plan? So her question is, were they sending this to everyone or just to the regular donors? It's only for the support squad, the people who sign up monthly, because it says support squad on the front. Yes, that's what I hope and think in my mind. But I think that's true. So here's how you can do it, right? Here's a roadmap. Look, here's all the communications you need. Now, one of the other things that they've done that I really enjoy is they've offered a webinar, an online Google Hangout with one of the volunteers who went into the field during the Houston floods. Right now, they're in Hawaii dealing with the lava flow. So they always keep me updated what they're working on. So I feel like my money is going to a really good place and that they're doing a great job in communicating with me. So again, what is your plan? Because if you have a plan, it will work. But if you just send me the same old communications, it's not going to work. Okay, so you need to think about your tactics. You need to have stewardship that's personal. And you need to think about your sustainers, your monthly givers. You've got to start asking for monthly gifts. Because if they had not asked me for the monthly gift, I wouldn't be getting all those communications. I wouldn't be engaged. I would have been a one-time Hurricane Harvey donor. By the way, the other 3 nonprofits I gave to, I've either heard nothing from them or nothing but asks from them. So I'm not going to give to them again. Right? This is my standout. Now, did I, before the storm, particularly care for Team Rubicon? Didn't know they existed. Military isn't really a cause that's close to my heart. Disaster recovery, not really something I invest in as a donor. But now I have an invested position to make them succeed. I really want them to be successful. Right? I'm a member of their squad. So you can't ignore them. You have to have a plan. And you need to try non-traditional communications. Again, what got my attention was that first text message with the photo. First one. Now, some of you are saying, well, how did they have that information? I made my gift, remember, on my phone. So they had my phone and they had my email address. So they were acquiring it from the beginning. So I want to open it up to questions, but this is my email. I actually answer it. And on my website, there's 14,000 samples you can download and steal. They're in English. Sorry. Right? But I will get somebody to translate them in exchange for Valpolicella. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I have a microphone for questions. We have Ooh, perfect. 15 minutes for questions, so perfect amount of time. Thoughts, questions? I know this is a lot to sink into your brains. Yes, ma'am. Help our friends.
So the question I have is, I come from a background of direct marketing, individual giving, and we're usually, in this context, we're usually asked, can you make a mid-donor program out of these people? Do you, and the first question is like, how do we segment the database? But I feel like the question is wrong, because after hearing what you're saying is more of a one-to-one, like you identified it, and no matter what, even if they go out of the kind of the boundaries, you keep on it. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Like they become small major donors.
Mini major donors. So her question is absolutely correct. We want to have a simple answer. We want you to be able to pull a list out of the database and say, everybody on this list gets this communication. It would be simple, right? And you can have a plan like that, but it won't feel personal. One of the things that felt personal about the Rubicon is, and I know they probably sent those communications to multiple people, it felt like it was all to me and to me alone. So if you're going to do mass communications, you need to figure out how to make it personal. But it's many major gifts. And the reason why people are not giving more is you send mass communications. I can see control, find, replace every time you do it, right? So what you need to figure out is what's different about those donors. So this afternoon, I'm going to be giving a session on the donor experience. And we talk about what to notice in order to build a custom donor experience for someone, but you can still scale it. So you can take it from one person to 100 people, but there needs to be an individual touch there. And for them, that was the text messages, right? Another one could be, remember when I talked about doublers? Just picking up the phone and calling someone and saying, thank you for doubling your gift. Or sending them an email and saying, but you have to point out what's unique about that person. Because we as donors all think we're special. It's not just a millennial thing, right? Everybody thinks they're special. My mom told me I was special. My dad said not so much, right? But everybody wants to feel special. And so direct marketing, the whole idea of mass communications, unless you're able to do that on an individual basis, it doesn't make you feel special. Sorry. I wish I had an easy answer. Of course you can. Let's have a debate.
But doesn't that apply to every donor? Now, there is possibility to personalize. If I give $5 a month, I can personalize doing what you just did.
Of course, it applies to every donor. But this segment in particular is especially sensitive to understanding that your mass communications don't work for them. If you want me to become invested at a higher dollar amount, then you have to become more invested in my experience. You can do mass communications for a $25 donor all day long, the grandma with the kittens. She'll love you. She just loves you because she loves you. Every time you send her an envelope, she's going to put something in it because she's grandma with 6 kittens. But if you want someone who's in their 40s with 2 careers and kids and college educated to pay attention to you, you have to do something different. That's really the truth. I wish there were an easy answer.
You showed before a slide about a university in which you showed the donors the 4 years. So
yes.
do you think it's a little bit scaring for a donor to receive that kind of information?
That's a really good question. Hold on, let's go back.
This one, yes.
So,
show them this one.
The university does every time they make their gift. Yeah. Now, there may be different sensibilities in the States. People who go to Dartmouth, it's an Ivy League school, so a lot of them come from money and maybe used to giving philanthropically. So if they come from private school, they've been giving all along. But they have shown that this really works with this mid-level range. So instead of them making a $1,000 gift for 4 years, they've been able to grow them from the $1,000 gift in the first year to a $25,000 or $50,000 gift later because they had a plan. So maybe not for everybody, right? But certainly the idea here is that we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know how to help my interpreters. I think there's a lot of people who see a gift as a throwaway. I'm just going to give you $25, go away, throwaway gift, which is the way I treated the Harvey gift, right? Here's your $100, I'm just trying to help. And they don't see it as that you're thinking about this in the future. And I think donors actually want us to think far beyond what we're thinking of. We're thinking of, we need to raise this amount of money this year, which is so very short-sighted, because when you think about for-profit business, they're doing business projections 3 years, 5 years out, and they show them to their customers, right? Apple is very good at this. They say, here's our current technology and here's where we want to be in the future. So you're like, ooh, I have to save up for the new phone because in 2 years I have to get a new one anyway because they'll stop it from working. But anyway, they show you that they have a plan. And in charities, we don't show you we have a plan. We show you, oh gosh, there's a need, but we don't ever tell you what's the end game of that need, right? And I think that's the difference. But it is a bold strategy. Yeah.
I think also the fact that this is a university,
Well, yes.
where the parents know their kids will be there for 4 or 5 years,
Yes.
and they know that they're going to be asked again, makes this even more comfortable.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for helping me, Simone. Other questions? Please? No? Sad? No? More wine? No? More coffee? No? Okay. Is this helpful to you guys? I changed my slides. Thank you so much. So I'm on again this afternoon at 4 o'clock in this room if you want to come hang out and sweat again. But first, can we say thank you to our interpreters who have... I tried to go slower this year. Bless their hearts. They are wonderful. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you, Simone. That means a lot coming from you. You see a lot. But I do virtual consulting a lot overseas.